And we've been working together since about, 2009?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. It's been a while. And one day, Anna's boss came to me and said, hey, we've got this really cool idea. We want to take the English textbook that we use in the classrooms, and we'd like you to make a video game out of it. And I thought, fabulous, let's have a look at this. And this got me really excited because I don't know if Anna knows this, but I actually failed English in year 7 and 8. So I felt like there was this really great opportunity to right some wrongs in education and have a crack at having a go at the English textbook. And Anna and I got together and started working on Knowledge Quest.
I think it's a really interesting product because we've heard a lot of people talking over the last couple of days of having the big corporate industries working with the smaller games designers to sort of build products. And I think it's very common for big corporations just to throw money at the indie and say, this is exactly what we want you to build. And we knew from the beginning, I'm from Jacaranda, we're one of the leading secondary educational publishers in Australia, and so we do textbooks, that's our thing. We've also, in the last sort of 5 years, branched out into a lot of digital-first resources and things like that. So we know that side of things, but we're not going to stand up and say that we're gaming experts whatsoever. But we know teachers, we know the content, we have all of those contacts. So what was missing then to be able to create a successful game, or a game that will work in the industry, is that gaming knowledge. And so when we knew we had to go with a small team that we could get heavily involved with the game, work with them on the gameplay, and that's where sort of Media Saints came into the partnership.
Yeah, and so in this presentation what we're going to do is basically take you through 10 very hard, very rewarding and very challenging lessons that we learnt because this very much was a case of building the plane while you're flying it. So we wanted to go through, talk about what worked, talk about what didn't work. So when you guys are going into your projects, maybe you've got a few take-homes that you can actually think about and hopefully apply so you don't feel the pain that we felt. So let's get right into it. So the first one is establish a common language. When you're putting together a completely digital company with a very traditional non-digital company, things can be very difficult and things can be very... how would you describe those first few months?
It was tough. Look, I think even within our company itself, we were going through internal evolution in it because we have a few people. It's actually quite small people resource-wise within the company, but we produce massive resources. So we were going through an evolution internally as well with the whole digital revolution and doing that. So you've kind of got the fight between the print publishers and the digital publishers, and so we were working that out at the same time. And for us to then go to a company that has no sort of connection with education and then to start laying down big words like, syllabuses and pedagogy and all of these sort of crazy, Australian curriculum was coming out at the same time. So it's never the fun stuff for people that aren't sort of completely encroached in that industry. So we had to, from our side of things anyway, simplify it and be able to explain why these things are important for the teachers, for us to be able to express within the game. But I think also from the other side is we're dealing with, on our side, a lot of people that don't know games at all. So one of our senior publishers who wrote a lot of the English content and commissioned a lot of it, Jan Cousins is her name, she's awesome, shout out to Jan.
She literally wrote the book on English.
Yeah,
so
she's...
that was the book that I failed on, so it was interesting having that conversation.
But yeah, Mike was saying before that one of her opening lines was like, "My son is addicted to World of Warcraft. I hate World of Warcraft."
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that was a really interesting moment in the project because this is sort of 3 weeks in, we're scoping it out, we've got me and Anna meeting, smashing this amount of energy, and then you bring it into a writer who is the academic resource that you have to go through them. And if you don't go through them correctly, our game was going to be mush. And all of a sudden, the first thing she says is, I don't like World of Warcraft. My brain and my whole body went, oh my goodness, we've got to start back at, dinosaur era of the understanding games. And the truth is, that's exactly what we had to do. We had to start going through and defining what words meant. Defining what these things actually were. We spent a lot of time making sure that when the pace picked up, that we could actually keep up and that people knew what was going on in the project. So I guess the first and the most important thing is when you start working on your project, Make it very clear at the start that everyone is on the same page and everyone understands the same definitions of the same thing, because gameplay and interactivity and code and design and prototype, the word prototype means very different things to very different people. And you need to make sure that those things are understood, because expectancies change very quickly when someone thinks a prototype is a prototype is a prototype is a prototype.
And I think even within the publishing industry, it's a very deadline driven. If you miss that deadline, then you're screwed, basically. Whereas, sometimes it can be a bit more flexible on the creative side of things. So I'm working with people that are like, oh, you said you'd deliver it by 12 o'clock next Tuesday. We have to deliver it by 12 o'clock next Tuesday. So it's, that understanding of when we agree on a deadline, these are what the expectations are. So it's having those common expectations as well, and not sort of overinflating them too much, and being realistic and having that common language so we can talk to each other in something that we all understand.
Yeah, and that's enabled the project to keep going and keep successful. Next one, know your audience, know your customers. There's a very big difference between customers and audience, especially in education, because audience is your players, it's just a lot of your students, but customers are not players. Kids don't buy Knowledge Quest, do they? No,
I guess it's year 7 and 8, so that's 11 and 12-year-olds. It's not the 15, 16-year-olds that may have a bit of income in there. It's an educational game. We're not being sort of secretive about that. It is fun, but it's an educational game. It's meant to learn stuff. So, they're not going to want to spend their pocket money on buying this sort of stuff, nor do they have the ability to whip out their credit card and just buy it online. So the customers and the audience, completely different people in this side of things. And even the customers for us is the teachers and the parents. So we need to be able to communicate our product to the teachers and the parents and let them see the benefits within the game itself.
But the kids see it very differently, because they're not so interested in pedagogically scaled perfection. They want interactivity, they want character customization. So we had to take all this into consideration. But we put this up, interestingly, because these were the very first drawings that came out of Knowledge Quest. And the first thing you'll notice is that the guy's holding a sword. Well, know your audience, know your customer. Obviously, the customer didn't like the fact that the audience could hold a sword. So that was quickly...
I think when Media Saints delivered these initial sketches to us, my bosses were like, whoa, 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 what have we gotten ourselves into? We can't be doing that. And so again, it's Mike and the Media Saints team understanding the way that we need to look at things, and them understanding our audience, because it's a very, very specific, sort of often pedantic, very time-poor audience that we need to be delivering this product to. And
showing a sword wipes you out.
Yeah.
You're no chance. The next one is work with the best. And I can't stress the importance of this enough. As I said, Jan, who is the writer, wrote the book on English, which means that when we talk about the academic credibility of the game, the credibility is there. But also on the game development side, it was extremely important that we got the best. And I was working at Film Vic at the time when we were scoping this out, and we all heard about the tragic news of Chrome Studios. Tragic. Best moment of my life. We saw an opportunity, and the opportunity was to go in and grab the leads team from Chrome Studio and pick them up and put them in here to make Knowledge Quest. And that's exactly what we did. We got Dave McLeod, we got Liam Rout, we got Mike Manilak, they're one of the best concept artists. We got an absolute senior team, and we focused on getting the best and the best only. And I can guarantee you that is the reason why Knowledge Quest has worked. Because without them, we wouldn't have been able to resolve a lot of the major issues. We wouldn't have had the foresight of being able to have 20 years experience in the industry to be able to know what the problems are going to be ahead. Everyone wants to go and work with a small, nimble, agile company as us, but if we hadn't have had that great leadership internally and those great, seriously good game developers, we wouldn't be standing here today, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, they've definitely got us out of a lot of issues, but I think as well, even from the educational side of things, we're Jacaranda, but we also get authors to come in and write content. We get people to come in and design learning sequences and have all that sort of thing. And so we only commission the best on our side as well. So that's just as important for teachers. I don't know if teachers really care a huge amount about the guy from Chrome Studios designed this. That's the kids love that stuff. But if they know that, this person wrote this section of the game and this person did this and the content through here has been sort of the brainchild of this person, this person, this person, to them, they're the rock stars of the education industry, not the game designers, but sort of the best on both sides is really, really important.
Yeah. So the key learning out of this is seriously pay the money. You get what you pay for, and especially when you're doing projects that are high risk, like educational games, it is absolutely quintessentially important to make sure that you pay the money and get the good teams, because, man...
Well, I think, and we didn't actually start out like that. So when Liam came on board, we had other smaller games developers doing stuff, and I think what we got out of Liam was easily more than 4 sort of less experienced games developers worth of knowledge and experience. So. Yeah.
The next one is build a brand, build a universe. I want to introduce you to a guy standing over here on our right-hand side. That's Michael Devbeck. Mike's been working at Media Saint since day one, and I want to introduce you to someone else. The character in the middle is also Michael Devbeck. One of the first things that we did on Knowledge Quest was decide that kids need to be motivated. They need to have these narrative elements going on in the actual production. Now, I think we both agreed before this that we think we put too much emphasis on story and narrative. But you still need to have emphasis on story and narrative. It's still very important to engage kids. But what I really want to just basically tell you straight up is that this is Harry Potter. You don't have to reinvent the wheel when you're building a universe. In actual fact, it's actually harder to try to create a new universe. People have narrative structures in their head that they completely understand. Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, they all operate the same things. This is Ron Weasley, this is Hagrid, this is the Professor, this is that woman at the end who does that fancy stuff. There's Malfoy, and there's Voldemort. They're all there. But those kind of narrative principles, everybody understands, which means you can skip a lot of the hard work in your game and in your product in people actually dissecting those and understanding where these people fit in a story. Actually, it was Christy. Is that Christy sitting at the back there? No, it's not. Yes, it is. It was Christy who taught me this lesson, because Christy does universe development. And I was sitting in Cross Media Labs in 2008, and I wrote it on a big piece of paper, and I said, build a universe. And that's exactly what we did. We built a universe around Knowledge Quest, and it works. It works very good. And Christy's also very good at doing this. So if you need someone to help you out, I do recommend Christy.
I think it's as well, building on what Mike said, is it's having a vision for the game. It's not looking constantly in the short term. I think you need to know where you want the game to be, how you want it to be implemented, how you want your users to be using it, because that will sort of make all of the decisions for you in many ways. So you don't want to just assume too much. You've got to build all of it at the beginning, or at least have that understanding right from the beginning. So as we were saying before when we were chatting at lunchtime, Knowledge Quest started as an RPG, which I remember Mike and I sitting in a room for 2 days, and we're like going, and this will happen, and then this will happen. We had like a full table of all of these sort of story events, and then I brought in my boss and like, well, Jill, look what we've done. And she was just like, oh my gosh, what have you done? Yeah. And then we convinced her, we got her really excited about it. But then that kind of took us down this sort of bomb steer route of going, putting a lot of work into something that we should have scaled back a lot earlier. And we've learnt that lesson.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the real lesson is you can have a universe without having the strongest story to go behind it. Because people understand the rules of a universe like this. And you don't need to spell it out for them exactly. They've watched enough movies like this to get what's going on. Let's move on. Next one, content is king. Everybody knows this, and I think this mirrors many of our other points. You have to make sure that the content in your educational game is specifically linked to the curriculum outcomes, and you guys did this perfectly.
Yeah, so, for us, the Australian curriculum was coming out. It seemed like a perfect opportunity to sort of be able to work in with what teachers will need at the time. They'll need sort of guidance through the Australian curriculum objectives and all of that sort of stuff. But, the structure within every level of the game. So we started actually with a workbook, with a skills workbook that teaches you grammar, spelling, punctuation, all of that stuff. That's fairly standard across all sort of classrooms in Australia. And so we thought, well, how can we make the worksheets a bit more fun? Could we just put them online? That's one way of digitising them. Or could we sort of make each worksheet a quest? And so that's the structure of Knowledge Quest. It's quest-based gameplay. Then within each level, it's got its own structure. It's very, very heavily sort of structured out in the learning sequences. And then that sort of fed in with the gameplay, and we altered some of it to suit the gameplay. Some of the gameplay was altered to suit the content. But at the core of it, that content we know will stand up in front of anybody and say that it's accurate. You know, Jan will stand up and argue. I've seen her many times arguing against sort of people that sort of question it. So I think comes back, if you know that content is correct, then
stand on it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're short of time, so we're going to power through the next one. Find the fun factor. Really, really, really important. We did this early. I don't know if you can see what this is. This is a jewel, and to destroy the lava, the plant on the right-hand side, you have to click on the common noun. When you click on the common noun, you earn both health, you earn mana, and you cast a skill. That ability to learn more mana then enables you to cast other skills. You can't actually complete and kill the monster or destroy the monster until you have got rid of all its health. But to do that, you actually need to be able to cast other skills. So we have damage over time skills, we have shields, we have health bars, we have blast attacks, we have all different types of gameplay to make it fun. Because at the end of the day, it's a multiple choice question. But it's a multiple choice question with some seriously fun gaming elements attached to it, which is the reason why it's worked really well.
And I think there's often a big stigma against educational games that you're just like, oh, an educational game, how boring. But I think to us it was really important. I grew up with like Carmen Sandiego and Number Munches and those sorts of things. So to me I have very nostalgic memories of all of them and I loved them, thought they were fun. But some of the stuff that you play with the big ones, you're like, oh, it's not really fun. But so that, that was very high on our priority list of making sure it is fun for the kids to enjoy.
Yeah. Next one, this is an obvious one. Communication is everything. And I want to tell you a little story to sort of put this in perspective. I think I'm a good producer. I think I'm good at what I do and I'm very, very proud of my skills. But there came a day when Liam, who we're talking about, who's the lead programmer on the project, came into my office and said, Michael, you can't do this job anymore. You need to find someone else to do your job because I was lacking the communication. And that's a really hard thing to be told when someone you've hired comes in and tells the boss that he's not good enough anymore. And that was pretty tough, but it was also the best decision we ever made. Bringing on a dedicated producer to actually manage this from your side of things.
Oh, it made massive, massive differences.
Yeah.
I think it meant that we had somebody to be the translator. So for our side, I was the translator for our team of content writers, all of that. I was able to sort of take what they were saying and translate it into the way that it was relevant for what they were doing. And I think the producer that ended up coming in was the way that translated for their side as well. So we can get the best out of our team and sort of let them do what they do best and not have to worry about all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also communication to the customer as well. It's not just between the parties. It's, let them know if there's issues, let them know if things are going to be late, let them know all of this sort of stuff and support them in that process.
And that brings us on to the next point, support the transition. When you do something as radical as Knowledge Quest and you bring it into a classroom environment, you're going to have problems and you're going to have a massive amount of stakeholders who have opinions on how these classroom assets should be used. And I've got to take my hat off to Jacaranda and the way that they went out and just went crazy in getting out to teachers and getting into schools and talking about the product, but also helping them through the transition. Because I can tell you that the teachers in the classrooms, a lot of them aren't ready for this. It's a really tough fact, but a lot of them just aren't ready. So I would say put as much effort as you possibly can into doing this.
Definitely. So then also, oldie but a goodie, listen to your audience, take any sort of things on board. If they're saying something, try to find the core of the problem. Don't just automatically put into the game or take out from the game what they're asking you to do. You need to find the reason behind why they're saying it. And then finally is be a brand ambassador. If you don't love the project, if you're not passionate about it, there's been so many hours that have been extra, but on both sides easily. If you're not passionate about it, people won't sort of jump on board. You need to convince others to become passionate about your project and create other ambassadors. And so, yeah, that's it.
That's the bit. That's it. And I don't know if we have time. I had a little video that I was going to play for you guys, but we don't have time, so I'm sure I'll spam it out so you guys can watch it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.